Brothers and sisters, thanks for joining me tonight. This time I want to talk about Tulsi Gabbard. Why do we want to talk about Tulsi Gabbard? She has been selected by President-elect Donald Trump to be the next Director of National Intelligence, pending Senate approval that's supposed to come in January. The DNI, Director of National Intelligence, that's a huge job in the American government. Basically, all the spies in America will work for her. So the CIA and the other intelligence agencies would fall under her purview. So we're seeing a little bit of news about her. Democrats have been saying, no, no, I don't think she's going to work out. And, we'll just have to see. But I thought for us, it would be good if we knew a little bit about her without, relying completely on the mainstream media because the mainstream media, come on, they're really just a mouthpiece of the Democratic Party. So let's see. I've got a few video clips here. Let's watch them and we'll see what we think of Tulsi.
Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard to be Director of National Intelligence. You have a history with the former Congresswoman. What do you think of her being tapped to be Director of National Intelligence?
So this is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They do have a history. She's a congresswoman, I believe, from Florida. She was the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, back in 2016 when Hillary Clinton was running. And she had a very public fallout at that time with Tulsi. At the time, Tulsi was the vice chairman of the DNC, so a very prominent position. Tulsi had been a 4-year congresswoman from Hawaii, but during the primary, it seems like she felt they weren't really giving Bernie Sanders a fair break. She wanted the American people, the Democratic Party, to pick the candidate who should run for president, and she felt that they were really stacking the deck in favor of Hillary Clinton. And so she had a big confrontation with her boss, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she ended up resigning. I should also say, I'm in no way affiliated with Tulsi Gabbard and any of her activities. I don't know her. I've never met her. I've never worked for her. But I felt like I should do this video just to get the word out of who she is because she is about to have this very important position. So let's see what Debbie has to say about her.
Tulsi Gabbard is someone who has met with war criminals,
Wow.
violated the Department of State's guidance, and secretly, clandestinely went to Syria and met with Assad, who
Wow.
gassed and attacked his own people with chemical weapons. She's considered to be essentially by most assessments, a Russian asset.
Russian
And
asset?
would be the most
Is that how you consider her?
dangerous.
Is that what you consider
Yes.
her?
Oh, yes. There's no question. I consider her someone who is likely a Russian asset, who would be as the DNI responsible for managing our entire intelligence community, hold all of our most significant intelligence information and secrets, and essentially would be a direct line to our enemies.
Wow, a direct line to our enemies. That's crazy. And she'd be the director of national intelligence. So she'd be the biggest like double agent ever. She'd be able to out all of our spies, all of our secrets. She'd even know who shot JFK. Debbie here definitely has an axe to grind. They definitely didn't get along. I would just keep that in mind. So Tulsi Gabbard is a lieutenant colonel in the army. She's a reserve lieutenant colonel. So she joined the military after 9/11, and she has served a few tours in war zones, Iraq, Afghanistan, and such. Wow, to say she's a Russian asset, that's huge. She even was a presidential contender back in 2020. Biden actually won the nomination of the party, but Tulsi tried to get it. So she was a contender for the presidential nomination, and now she's a Russian asset. That's huge. She did go to Syria. I think that's what Schultz here is alluding to. But basically, her entire career been very anti-war. She said very publicly that she feels like we shouldn't spend kind of American blood and treasure on foreign regime change wars. It's wasteful and it doesn't matter. So in Syria, another thing she did that the Democrats I think are annoyed with is while she was a sitting congresswoman, she actually went on some of the talk shows, I think Fox and some others, and actually said she was against Obama's plan to bomb Syria. He wanted to go to Congress and get authorization to bomb Syria because they had crossed his red line of using chemical weapons on their own people, and I think that's what Schultz just said. Well, that's that's Obama's opinion, that's Schultz's opinion, but Gabbard's opinion is a little different. She did fact finding, and she came to the conclusion that Syria was never going to attack the US. Syria wasn't being used assisting terrorists that were attacking us. I think she publicly said, if anyone, we should be bombing Assad, the president of Syria's enemies. He was in the middle of a civil war uh, because his enemies were Islamic terrorists. And she said publicly many times she's all for military action against Islamic terrorists who are the enemies of America. Syria was, in her opinion, no threat to America. So why are we doing this? So it's just a different viewpoint, I would say. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. So let's see what else Debbie or whoever has to say about Tulsi.
Our enemies.
I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third party candidate.
Wow. So here we've got Hillary Clinton talking about Tulsi Gabbard. Again, this was in 2020 while she was running for president, and Hillary Clinton is saying she's a favorite of the Russians. So she is also implying that she's a Russian asset. And that she's going to be a third party candidate and a spoiler, which Tulsi said she would never do. And she did not do that. When it became clear to her that she could not win her party's nomination, she gracefully bowed out of the campaign. But I think that given her not supporting Obama earlier and then her publicly supporting Bernie and being a Bernie bro, then because of that, I think she's on the outs with Hillary, and and Hillary Clinton is a very powerful woman in America. She's a top tier politician who came very close to becoming president and would have if Trump hadn't beaten her in 2016. But to say that a congresswoman and presidential candidate and soldier is a favorite of the Russians, a Russian asset, is the implication, is just crazy. And saying that the Russians are grooming her, I'm just reading it right the off of the banner below. That's nuts. I'm just shocked that the media hasn't come out and asked, hey, more specifics on this, but we all know why they didn't. So, but if you're going to make that kind of claim, you somebody should say, okay, well, all right, great. Do you think she's a Russian asset? What are the facts? But no, of course, nobody did that. All right, let's see what else Democrats are having to say about Miss Gabbard.
She's a favorite of the Russians.
Well, Republican Senator Mitt Romney issued a scathing response, tweeting, quote, Tulsi Gabbard is parroting false Russian propaganda. Her treasonous lies may well cost lives. Hillary Clinton, is that you?
Hillary Clinton is at you. Wow. Here, let me rewind just a little bit. Tulsi Gabbard is parroting false Russian propaganda. Her treasonous lies may well cost lives. So Mitt Romney, a Republican senator, 2022, is also, uh, really implying that she's a Russian asset. Maybe they know something that we don't know. But I don't know why they aren't asking these questions in the media. Uh, but to me, this borders on slander. I've always been a very strong proponent of free speech, and you're going to see that in my videos. I always call people out when they don't allow free speech. I don't want any censorship. I always say we need to combat the fake news and poor speech with better speech. That's one of the reasons I'm making this video. I want to make sure that word gets out about Tulsi Gabbard that I think is fair, and I'm not sure she'll get that from the media because they pretty much work for the Democrats, most of them, or I mean, they are usually Democrats in the media, and but this is pretty crazy. He's saying she's a traitor. Her treasonous lies may well cost her treasonous lies may well cost lives. That's crazy. She's a lieutenant colonel in the army. It's just nuts. And she, I believe, in 22 she was still a Democrat and been a Democrat her whole life. Okay, so that's what So even Mitt Romney, let's go on and we'll see. I'm going to let Tulsi actually respond to Mitt Romney next. Let's see what Tulsi actually said about this. So I think it's good to actually hear her own words.
Well cost lives. Hillary Clinton, is that you? Others have come out against Gabbard for what they've said is furthering a Kremlin-backed conspiracy. Not the first time she's been accused of this.
Senator Mitt Romney put out a tweet calling me a treasonous liar, obviously saying that I was, a traitor and a Russian asset or a puppet or whatever it was, but having no evidence to back it up. We sent him a legal letter saying, hey, you've just accused me of a crime. I still serve in the U.S. Army Reserves, of a crime that is punishable by death under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, of committing treason, and you're in a position of great power and influence where if you really believe that was true, then there are things that you can do. Actually, there are actions that you should take. If you think that's right. If you think that a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Reserves has committed treason, also former member of Congress who ran for president, well, what are you doing about it?
Yeah, come
Nothing.
arrest me.
Exactly.
But send the cops to my house.
Exactly. Absolutely nothing. Had no response publicly or privately to our legal letter demanding, hey, you've made this statement. Back it up if you really meant it. But that's just one of those many examples where they treat this so lightly and don't have any concern for the chilling effect that it has on our democracy, on us being able as people to say, hey, all this tens of billions of dollars you are taking out of our pockets and our wallets to send to Ukraine, even just asking, where is this money going? How is it advancing the interests of the United States? How is it advancing our own national security interests? Even asking those questions invites those smear attacks.
Yeah, it's crazy. We do have very strong free speech laws, but this does really border on slander. Now, you got to take the good with the bad, and the bad for Tulsi in this case is she's a very public figure, and the slander laws in America against public figures are very weak. If she was a private citizen, she would probably have grounds to sue, but as a public figure, she can't do it. And I'm not a lawyer, so this is just my guess. Uh, but um, but yeah, it's just shocking what they say. And one crazy thing about the Democratic Party nowadays is everything they say, it's all gaslighting. It really is. If they say something that their opponents are actually doing something, if they accuse Tulsi Gabbard of doing something, then they are probably doing it. I think you would see that, and an example of that would be Hillary Clinton. They 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 did the Russia hoax with Trump for years. Like in his first presidency, they kept saying he was a Russian asset. So Hillary actually has history of this Russian asset stuff. That Trump was in Putin's pocket, and that he only got elected because he was working with Russia. So that's all been debunked now. And you know what? It turned out that dossier was really campaign research. It's a proven fact that dossier was actually campaign research done by the Clinton campaign. They paid for it. She actually had to pay a fine because she didn't disclose that to the Federal Election Commission. I think that's similar to what they're trying to throw Trump in jail for in New York. For They basically said he lied on his taxes so he could cover up paying Stormy Daniels. So it's the same thing, and it's Russia. So yeah, so Hillary has a long history of accusing people of being Russian assets, I would say. So Trump is in good company. Maybe that's why he picked her for DNI. And then, as she said, she was a congresswoman. I think she was the first Samoan and Hindu congresswoman in the U.S., and she was out of Hawaii. So, wow. So good for you, Tulsi. Let's see what we have up next. I'm not sure what clip I've got up next, but let's see what we got.
And we haven't even gotten to Tulsi Gabbard potentially having access to national security information. And Russia loves it.
She has
Loves
crazy
her.
eyes.
And
Is it just
I
me?
actually think almost more than Matt
It's
Gaetz,
just the lighting.
Tulsi Gabbard's appointment is devastating. And Tulsi Gabbard's nomination, as much as she says that she's an anti-war person, she's not.
Yeah.
She supports very pro-war individuals,
including in Syria.
And let's be very clear, a Tulsi Gabbard nomination is a pro-war nomination globally. Point blank, period.
As is Donald Trump as president of the United States.
All right, let me stop it. Hey, did I mention gaslighting? There's a few things to unwind here, other than she's got crazy eyes. Um, so so Joy Reid here, I think that's Joy Reid, is saying that Trump is all for war. He's a warmonger. I think she said that. So little known fact, or it should be a big known fact, but Trump is the only president since probably World War II, from before World War II, who actually hasn't committed U.S. troops to a new foreign war. Like, yeah, we were fighting, no doubt. There were troops stationed all over the world, fighting on America's behalf in war zones, but they were all fighting there before Trump took office. Iraq, Afghanistan, other places in the Middle East. He didn't commit new forces to any new conflict. So I don't see how you can actually, back up with any real facts that Trump is a warmonger. But okay, Joy Reid said it, so it must be true. And then Crazy Eye AOC over here. I actually think she's a congresswoman, so she's actually she's got to be pretty smart. I don't think anybody gets into Congress if they're not smart, but she comes across like she's dumb as a post. So Tulsi Gabbard is a warmonger. If you ever listen to her, every single speech she almost ever does, she talks about her main agenda, is that she was appalled by the attacks on America during 9/11. So she signed up and she went and served our country, was deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, to several war zones. I don't know exactly where. And she rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel over the course of 20 odd years. She's also got a really strong libertarian bent, I would say. She has always said, hey, I'm all for going out and fighting the enemies of America, the terrorists. Let's do it. But people that aren't a threat to America, why are we fighting there? Why are we spending that American blood and treasure? Why are Americans dying in these foreign regime change wars? She says that all the time. So in Syria, that's why she said she doesn't want to fight in Syria. That's because Syria is an ally of the Russians. Oh, she must be a Russian asset. Now, maybe they know more than me, and maybe it'll come out in the hearings when they go and do her confirmation. And I do hope the Senate does their due diligence and does a proper confirmation. They need to really look and make sure to see if she really is a threat to America. And absolutely, if she's a threat to America, she should not get the job, but she really needs to be a threat. They need to get like top secret CIA briefings on her and all that, and then based on that do it. They can't be doing it just because Joy Reid, AOC, and Hillary Clinton and Debbie Wasserman Schultz say she's working for the Russians. It's crazy. I mean, is it just me? If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. And hey, and if you like this kind of stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell. You know what to do. Hey, if you don't like it, do it too. If you love to hate me. No, this is you guys should not be able to be saying this. Joy Reid, shame on you. You are the media. You should be asking the tough questions and like looking at real facts and presenting real facts and not presenting AOC's opinion as facts, because AOC didn't say anything there that said like, hey, she didn't say I've been in top secret briefings and hey, trust me, she's a spy for the Russians. No, it was just couched in her comments were all about my opinion was. There were no facts there. All right, so crazy eyed AOC. Wow. How the people in New York, why did they reelect her? Oh my God. All right. So let's see. I think we're going to have Tulsi up again next. I'm going to let Tulsi again, say something about this. Let's see what Tulsi has to say.
President of the United States.
You may have seen over the last few days that Mark Cuban claims that President Trump has no strong or intelligent women supporting him. The premise of Mark Cuban's statement is that he believes that Liz Cheney and other female warmongers like her are strong women. This is not the case. They are hypocrites and cowards. They are eager to send our troops into war, my brothers and sisters into harm's way, and yet they themselves refuse to volunteer to put their own lives on the line on these military adventures that they're advocating for. This is not strength. This is hypocrisy and cowardice.
Okay, guys, that's right out of Tulsi's own mouth. Does that sound like a warmonger? Not to me. It's kind of the same. It's really very similar to kind of what Trump said. They did the hoax that they were going to lie, that Trump's going to line Liz Cheney up against the wall and shoot her, uh, and that's not so. If you actually go back and listen to the clip of what Trump really said, and I'm going to paraphrase, so I'm not going to get it exactly right for people who watch this and go, hey, Des, you got this wrong. What he said was something like, hey, we should give Liz Cheney a gun, let her go out there, and then have 6 or 7 people shooting back at her. That's kind of what he said. So that's the same thing people used to say during the Vietnam War. They used to say, if you're going to send our sons and daughters to war, you should go too. There's a famous song about that. I'm no senator's son. That's why he ended up going to Vietnam. So Trump said pretty much the same thing, and you just heard Tulsi say something very similar, like, "Hey, these warmongers, these Liz Cheneys, these Dick Cheneys, these other members of the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about, they're not willing to go fight, but they're willing to send others to go fight on their behalf." And she, as a soldier, is fine going and going where she's told, but she only wants to go places that really benefits America, and so she wants politicians in that will safeguard the American blood and treasure, and really spend American lives when it's really necessary for the protection of America. And I'm just paraphrasing again. I've never met Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm not affiliated with her in any way, but this is just my reaction to her. So I may have a lot of this wrong, but this is my gut on how on how she thinks. Let's see what I got up next. I'm not sure.
I want to start with something that I think is also important about facts, because recently on your show here,
I was just going to get to that.
Good.
Oh, the view. These ladies are great.
Some of you have accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse,
Wow,
or
she's
a,
letting them have it.
a useful idiot, I think was the term that you used, which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on.
Use that. I guess we're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, she's letting him have it.
Franklin Graham finds you refreshing. He doesn't find me refreshing. Richard Spencer, the white nationalist leader, says he could vote
Yeah, trying to
for
connect her with
Joy,
the white
this is why-
nationalists.
I mean,
This
you're
is
on
I'm
Tucker
here.
Carlson at least 10 times. Why don't you go on Chris Wallace?
Well, she's on your show. Like, so she's on a liberal show, lady.
This is why I'm here, because you and other people continue to spread these innuendos that have nothing to do with who I am.
You called her the queen of warmongers.
You double down, unfortunately, you double down on the baseless accusations that she made that strikes at the core of who I am. I'm a soldier.
We actually have the clip of Hillary Clinton, just to put this in context of what we're talking about. Let's take a look at that.
I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. That's assuming Jill Stein will give it up, which she might not, because she's also a Russian asset.
Hillary likes her Russian assets.
So
Really? I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous
It is
and
outrageous.
offensive on so many levels. It's offensive to me as a soldier,
Whoopi
as an
does
American,
not look
as a
comfortable.
member of Congress,
She's
as a
not used to
veteran, and
getting
frankly,
tore
as a
up.
woman, to be so demeaned.
She's giving it.
But you
She's
called
giving
her
it to
the
them with both barrels.
personification of
Is
rock.
so
She's
demeaned
a
in
woman
such
too.
a way. Well, I'm pointing to the fact that she has continued this legacy of being the world's police around the world, that has waged wars costing the lives of thousands of my brothers and sisters in uniform. And
What's
to
your
change,
evidence to that?
To change.
Well, can I?
Are you
can I-
serious?
Let's hear it.
Are you serious?
Let's hear it.
I served in the war
Not
in
you,
Iraq.
her. You're saying that she's
exactly.
she's a
I served
warmonger. How do
in
you
the
come
war
up with
in
that?
Iraq
Yeah.
that she championed. She championed a regime change
Did
war
you not
in
believe
Libya.
in that war?
I believe the lies that were told to us.
Well, so did she.
So it is
Wow. Yeah. See, all they're really going. She's really doing her best to defend Hillary on this.
indisputable to say anything other than the fact
Can I
that Hillary, let me just close this out, that Hillary Clinton throughout her career has led with a foreign policy of interventionism and being the world's police, going and toppling dictators in other countries that has caused such destruction and loss of life. I'm against that.
If something was so
So there's the warmonger again. Like, I'm sorry, this she does not sound like a warmonger. Sorry, AOC. I got to call bullshit on that one. There's no way Tulsi Gabbard is a warmonger. That's just nuts. And those other ladies on the View, they didn't say much anything. I guess the one lady did say, "Hey, let's cue up this video." They were so uncomfortable because they're not used to their guests tearing them up like that. And they deserve to be tore up. They So I sometimes wonder if the View is like real, or if it's just Jerry Springer and all scripted but because they just say some of the craziest stuff on that show. Hey, so let's see what her and Bill Maher had to talk about.
catastrophic that we did have to draft people, why shouldn't women go? But why bring it up in an election year?
Let's see what
are
she
my
thinks
two
about
questions.
women draft.
Well, first of all, we shouldn't have a draft.
At all?
No, I don't think so.
What if it's an emergency?
Well, the fact that they're bringing this up now, to me, points to the fact that the only reason we would need a draft is because our warmongering politicians are starting wars that they know the American people aren't going to support. When you look at what happened after
Well, they
the
didn't
attack on...
start the wars.
Well, when you
They
look at what
didn't s-
happened, well, you look at what happened after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Thousands and thousands of people from all across the country set aside their lives and volunteered because they wanted to go and fight for freedom and security and for peace. And you look at what happened after the attack on 9/11. So many Americans like myself, we enlisted to be
Right.
able to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. To me, it's a big red flag that they're bringing this up right now. First of all, as we have multiple wars burgeoning around the world. But as a I've been deployed 3 times to different war zones. I don't want to be in a foxhole next to somebody who doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, I really think that's the bottom line. I think, we haven't had a draft in America since the Vietnam era, and there's really a lot of good reasons for that. If you look back, it was a terrible time for America. All these young men didn't want to go, had to go. So they were thrown in jail, or they went, or they ran off to Canada, and so yeah, if you're in a foxhole, you don't want to be in there with somebody who doesn't want to be there. These are not going to be the best troops. They're not going to be the best motivated folks in a fight. So, one of the reasons America has such a strong military today is it's an all volunteer force. So, a professional force like that, where everyone volunteered, is going to be much superior to one that where you're drafting people. So I kind of agree with her. We don't want to draft. And why make people go fight who don't want to go fight? It seems nuts. Now I get Mars' point. What if it's a really big conflict and we need it? But Tulsi's counterpoint is, hey, World War II was really big. We didn't have a draft at the beginning of World War II. We let everybody in. And there was plenty of people wanting to get in, and that's what would happen if it's big. That's what she's saying. And then we need to make sure that our politicians keep us out of those big wars. So again, they keep calling her a warmonger. I'm not hearing it. I don't want to draft. I don't want to fight in these regime change wars. I mean, you're hearing this kind of stuff from her. they're saying because she doesn't want war. Is it because she doesn't want war that she's a Russian asset? Is that part of it? Because since she doesn't want to fight the Russians, is it? I mean, they're making some really big logical leaps. All right, so now I guess we're spinning forward to 2024 in this clip. Oh, she's up on stage with Trump. Let's see what she has to say.
It is because of my love for our country, and specifically because of the leadership that President Trump has brought to transform the Republican Party and bring it back to the party of the people and the party of peace, that I'm proud to stand here with you today, President Trump, and announce that I'm joining the Republican Party. The party of the people, the party of equality, the party that was founded to fight against and end slavery in this country. It is the party of common sense and the party that is led by a president who has the courage and strength to fight for peace. It's the
So, interesting thing, this year during this election cycle, Tulsi Gabbard joined the Republican Party on stage at one of Trump's events and went and actively campaigned to help Trump. The Democrats have a problem when very prominent Democrats are all becoming Republicans. Tulsi Gabbard was the Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii and the vice chairman of the DNC. Elon Musk was a Democrat. you know, President Trump was a Democrat back in the day before he wasn't. Robert Kennedy was a Democrat. He's a Kennedy. One of the Kennedys is breaking ranks. Joe Rogan was a Democrat. You could go on. There's a lot of folks disillusioned with the Democratic Party, and we saw Trump won this time in the 2024 election against Harris. A lot of those voters, I'm sure, were lifelong Democrats before they weren't. It's because the Democratic Party is just not. It's not the party that it used to be. And so these folks are all getting disillusioned with the party. It's unfortunate. One nice thing about Tulsi is she can actually put two sentences together intelligently. It's much better than what we saw out of Kamala's performances with Kamala's word salad. Tulsi actually can think on her feet and and can give you a cogent answer to whatever question you ask. She seems like she's been on point. All right, let's see what else she has to say. Tulsi Gabbard, Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, four-term Congresswoman, former presidential candidate. Where was she at? America Fest 23 on this one. All right, so let's see what we got here.
Democrat elite and the permanent Washington establishment, the war machine made up of both Democrats and Republicans, who are abusing their power, undermining our God-given rights and freedoms enshrined in the Constitution with one goal and objective in mind: protecting their power at any cost. Now, every member of Congress and the U.S. Senate, they all took an oath. The sad reality is that many of these very people who raised their right hand and said those words pose a direct domestic threat to the freedom of our country today.
All right. So, yeah, she wants to protect our rights too, and she's calling out warmongers as bad again. All right, let's see what we got next.
So what exactly did Tulsi Gabbard do to get added to the terror watch list?
Tulsi Gabbard is also on the terrorist watch list. It's a lieutenant colonel in the Army, a previous congresswoman, presidential candidate, and vice chair of the DNC. Now she's not only a Russian asset, she's a terrorist potentially. Okay, we got to hear more.
It came the day after she criticized the Biden administration.
Oh, imagine that.
On the angle.
Our foreign policy decisions are being made by unelected people in the military-industrial complex who are profiting from us being in a constant state of war, and the national security state that has more power to undermine our freedoms and liberties when we are in a state of war. Kamala Harris does not have the strength to stand up
to the military-industrial complex.
Okay, that's wild. Joining me now, Tulsi Gabbard, former U.S. Congresswoman, Fox News contributor. Tulsi, now, you serve this country in uniform, even getting deployed to Iraq. Thank you for going, unlike Tim Walz. And now you're being surveilled.
A shot at Walz.
I mean, it's a form of surveillance or hassling and intrusion upon your freedom to move by the government. What is this? I mean, I didn't believe it really when I first heard about it. I said, oh, that can't be. But how does this make you feel?
Laura, this is a clear act of political retaliation. There's no other way to put it. You laid out the sequence of events the very next day after my conversation with you on the air, warning the American people about how dangerous a Kamala Harris presidency would be. I was placed on this domestic terror watch list, which is called the Quiet Skies list under the Department of Homeland Security. The clear pain and real visceral hurt that comes from this is, as you mentioned, like many Americans, I enlisted because of the terrorist attacks on 9/11, to go after the Islamist terrorists who attacked us on that day, and to now have my own government now turn around and put me on a domestic terror watch list. It hits to the core and is the ultimate sense of betrayal. But we look at why they are doing this. It has a chilling effect. It sends a warning both to me and to anyone else who even thinks about daring to criticize our own government, which is a guaranteed protected right under the First Amendment, that we will be subject to a violation of our Fourth Amendment right to privacy through this kind of surveillance. And that's the biggest stress that's been caused by this entire situation, Laura, is now forever. I will always be looking over my shoulder, wondering if and how our government in any of these different agencies is surveilling me, watching me. Are they reading my text messages? Are they listening to my phone calls?
Yeah, I was going to say yes, yes, and yes. That's what I would guess, at least. Now, in a letter from whistleblower attorney Tristan Levitt, he writes that the special mission coverage in Ms. Gabbard's case reportedly involves 2 explosive detection canine teams, 1 transportation security analyst in explosives, 1 plainclothes TSA supervisor, and 3 federal air marshals on every flight Ms. Gabbard boards.
Every flight?
I mean, I'm not laughing, Tulsi, because this is literally like the Soviet Union, China today,
Absolutely.
North Korea, any totalitarian regime. But Donald Trump's the totalitarian, right? He's the dictator in waiting. Okay.
Yeah, this is just, and this is what we know about, and we know about it because of these brave whistleblowers from the Air Marshal Service who are coming forward. What I'm questioning is, what are the things that are happening in our government that I don't know about? How long have they been surveilling me? This is just a recent occurrence. I would not be surprised to know that there are other government agencies who are also being weaponized against political opponents, those who dare to challenge this regime, the Biden-Harris administration. And that's really what it comes down to, and why they have to be stopped.
They have
we
to
are
be
guaranteed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I cannot be free, and you pointed to this. Yes, exactly. I cannot be free so long as my government is breathing down my neck and watching my every move.
Yeah, so it's crazy. If Tulsi Gabbard gets the job as a DNI, if I'm her, the first thing I do is say, hey, I want to see my file. Go out there, I want to see every file on me by every intelligence agency. I want it on my desk by like tomorrow. And then who else are we surveilling in these programs, and why are we doing that? I want an explanation. Oh, it's crazy. So here's a picture of Tulsi and her husband. Looks like they're probably in Hawaii. I got this off of her Twitter. So yeah, so these videos all came off either Tulsi's Twitter, or they came off of news sites, that I found, during research. So wow. So what do I think? I'm sure it's pretty obvious by now. We definitely need to have the approval process by the Senate. That's what the Constitution says that we need to do. It's the consent and approval of the Senate on all high-level political government officials, and I agree with that. And so I hope they do their due diligence on Tulsi, but they really need to look at real facts. If you're going to like stop her from getting this job, then there needs to be like top secret evidence that she really is a Russian asset or something like that, or she really is a terrorist. If it's just Wasserman Schultz and Hillary and others just making these wild accusations, then that's just nonsense, and that's just not right. So, given my assumption that she really isn't, I hope she has a smooth approval process and gets there. And why? Because if you look at her background, her detractors are going to say, "Hey, she's got no intelligence background." Well, we don't really know that. What she's really done in the military, you and I don't know that. But she was in the military and a lieutenant colonel, so she's got some level of knowledge about intelligence. And then, but I think more important than that is she's got enough sort of executive experience. She's been a lieutenant colonel, that gives her executive experience in the military. She's been a congresswoman, that gives her some level of executive experience running her office. She was the vice chairman of the DNC. So I think on basic qualifications, she's got the basic qualifications. And then honestly, qualifications aren't that important. President Trump is wanting to shake up the establishment instead of being the revolving door with people who come in, they work in this job for a while, then they go work in these big defense companies, and then they come back into government and they go back and forth and just make a lot of money and give contracts back to their old cronies. And so I think Trump's trying to stop that kind of stuff. And so getting newcomers in there that aren't part of that is a good thing. And then look at Trump himself. Trump was on The Apprentice. He didn't know anything about the military, and he was commander in chief. And I think he was fine in his first 4 years as commander in chief. So as long as she has good people that she can rely on that give her good advice, then based on her good judgment, I think she'll be fine. So I wholeheartedly support her nomination. If you can't tell, I don't believe she's a Russian asset, and I don't believe that she should be on any terrorist watch list. And I'd really, that's when I'm really interested in like, hey, how did I get on this? And who put me on this? And it's just another example of how the Democrats in the last 4 years have gone after their political opponents. They went after Trump and used the Department of Justice and the state court system to go after him. Now they're going after Tulsi Gabbard using the terrorist watch list and turning off her Google ads, and they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff and behind the scenes that we're not seeing. And that's not the America I want to live in, where the government can do that to you. So again, I think she's a good choice, and I hope she has a smooth confirmation. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe. If I got it wrong, tell me in the comments. And if there's anything else you'd like to see, let me know. Thanks. Bye.